Hang on, guys, just real quick. Hang on, we're taking a little selfie. There we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to Alpha Book Club. I'm Hector Navarro, and joining me, as always, our Geek Bomb founder, Maude Garrett.
Hey, guys.
And
Hi.
Nerdist editor-in-chief, Rachel Heine.
Oh,
Come on. Editor-in-chief.
I do like to cook.
Yes, and as always, a very genuine warm welcome to our Alpha community. We cannot do the show without you guys. Our chat is the complete opposite of a wretched hive of scum and villainy, aka a YouTube chat. Oh, just kidding. YouTube comments, they need some help. They're the best. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm so excited, if you couldn't tell. We're in our first week of discussion about Timothy Zahn's Thrawn. I finally got a Star Wars novel on the show. Just in time for
It's
May
a
the
rose
4th.
between two thrones. I've got so many.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait. You've got Thrawn puns?
Yeah.
I cannot wait. This is going to be very exciting. Tomorrow is May the 4th.
Yes.
A lot of people may be spending this weekend watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but we always have to pause and reflect how much we love Star Wars.
Yeah.
And with the new novels, I mean, there's so much stuff to get into.
You know what's just a cute anecdote is that May the 4th is my 3-year anniversary at Nerdist, which I find just super
Appropriate.
fitting and appropriate.
So
on
brand.
So it's always
So
extra
on brand.
special
Happy
for
3
me.
years.
Happy 3
you.
years. Yay.
you.
Happy 3 years. The best 3 years Nerdist has ever had. So let's get started, guys. The previously on, we're talking about Timothy Zahn, author of the old Extended Universe EU
Yes.
Thrawn novels, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. Now, Rachel, you've read those.
I read them
Years ago.
Years ago when I was but a wee baby.
Let's chat about that for a second. What do you remember about them?
I remember them they're what happens after Return of the Jedi. There's a lot with Mara Jade. It kind of plays into what
Who's
happens.
Mara Jade, in case people don't know?
Mara Jade is I believe, a Jedi who turned to the dark side and had a relationship with Luke.
Well,
So-
she was
Super hot.
she was
Yeah.
the Emperor's right-hand gal.
Yes,
So
yes.
she was quite
when
evil.
they updated them, they put Thrawn actually on the
I know,
covers,
I
which is
love
great.
it.
Those are beautiful. That's beautiful artwork too.
And he's really cool because a lot of the other villains in Star Wars rule with fear.
Yes.
They everyone is afraid of them, whereas Thrawn had a lot of loyal subjects or people behind him, and so he was very manipulative, and people admired him and respected him in a way that was a little bit different. So I thought that was really interesting.
And that's something you remembered from the original novels.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember that he was really, really smart and just a really great bad guy. And a lot of other stuff happens in those books, but then when they decided that those weren't canon, people still,
Oh, they were very upset.
Yeah, but
I have a
think
friend
that
who's
they're-
still very upset about that, but read this book, loved the book. Like, he was an old school Star Wars fan, which many of you may be, and I want to get into this for a second. I, for one, was so elated with the direction that Disney decided to take this franchise after they bought it. Because they could have just made movies
based on
They were never going to do that.
No,
it's
but,
Disney moneymaker.
it's
oh
true.
no! Look, you've just.
It's true.
We can't talk about Disney
we can't,
in a bad way
well,
because apparently
they cut out our background.
I mean, Star Wars is great.
Nice try, you bastards. No background, and it's coming back. But they could have just the Disney assassins.
I'm gonna get drunk
Like,
now.
when you talk spoilers about a Marvel thing, that little red dot appears.
Yeah.
I went to the Marvel offices and I.
Yeah.
But I'm saying they could have just made movies one way or the other, but instead of in addition to making movies that are going to make billions of dollars, they took the entire brand and went, let's make everything now canonical.
No, they were like, let's make all the money.
All the money. Let's do
making-
comic books, which because we own Marvel, Marvel will make comic books. Let's do novels. Let's do video games, and have it all under the same sort of creative thrust. And again, my friends who were such hardcore fans of the EU, they went, well, all of our stuff went away forever. But Disney Publishing is publishing that stuff under the Legends brand.
Yes.
So I feel like a lot of that stuff is more readily available than ever before, which is really great.
I know fans were upset that Thrawn wasn't in the canon anymore
Yes.
for a
Yeah.
long time.
Because he was one of the most coveted and celebrated bad guy out there.
And so then they brought him back on Rebels and with, and now, in these books, and I think there's another book that he's in as well. But they, they're pulling elements from it, and so one of the things I know that people really want to see is Mara Jade. They want to see a version
I was
of
more
Mara.
upset about Mara
Yes.
Jade not being brought back. It was cool that we got Thrawn, but I was like, oh,
she's so badass, and it's really cool to get to actually see.
we're not going to see her, guys.
No, I know.
Canonically,
Hey,
I
you
think
know
we
what?
could
Never
pull
say never.
elements of her though,
Sure.
and like, it might not be Laura Dern, for example, but you know there are characters who are being cast that have elements of different
Yes.
characters and things like that.
And
So
we
I
might
think we
see-
where did the
might
Laura
see
Dern thing come
something.
from?
Well, because she's in episode 8.
Last Jedi.
She's so
Last Jedi.
And we
great.
don't really know who she's playing, and we know that she's on the side of the New Order.
Is she going to be?
But the first thing that I thought was like, is Laura Dern a Mara Jade-esque character? And I got excited. And so even if she isn't, the fact that we all are like, but maybe like elements
Listen,
of her
been
just
read.
to have a badass.
They might make a new cartoon show after Star Wars Rebels wraps up.
Yeah.
That might take place in the years where Mara Jade was a character and active, and they might.
or they
like,
could go, oh, Republic!
and
they could do that.
I don't never know how to pronounce her name, but I read in high school, when I read all these books, my best friend Alex,
Hi, Alex.
who is the greatest, he's probably not watching, but I think he does watch it on VOD. He had every Star Wars book ever known to man. I brought him to the Rogue One premiere this year, and he was like full on.
That's
It was
so-
the greatest
that's so
night
great.
of
That's
his life.
cute.
And my best friend in the world, and so I borrowed all of his books when we became friends, and a lot of them were prequels books, actually, and some of them were really good. There was one, the name escapes me, but it's about, it's in between, I think, episodes 2 and 3, and it's all about like kind of Dooku and Yoda's relationship as former Padawan and Master. That was really cool.
Is that a Legends or a current book in canon?
No, it was an older. This was
Got it.
15 years ago, when I was but a wee baby. But there were all these really great stories with also a Sith female character who was an alien. She was bald, and she ended up with the scar she gave Anakin the scar that he has in the third movie.
Asajj
That's what
Ventress.
it is. Asajj.
She's rad.
She's
yeah.
great.
And she was so
Ventress.
cool, and so I like the idea
She's canon.
of like like I love lady villains because we never get to just see that as much. I feel like
I'm going to keep
Agreed.
interjecting with fun facts because
Yes.
we're all Star Wars fans big time.
Yeah.
But if I could have any 2 lightsabers, I would get Asajj
Ventress
Ventress.
is
There's
too-
that curved hilt, but
Yeah.
there's 2 of them. So good.
Loved it. Yeah, I think my first intro to her was the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars animated shorts. If you guys haven't seen those, it's the best Star Wars thing ever made. So getting back to Thrawn, Timothy Zahn is regarded as one of the best extended universe writers. He came back to Thrawn several times. Thrawn was one of the most popular old EU characters, just like Maude was saying, absolutely. And he's now appeared in new canon in Star Wars Rebels.
Which no one on our panel has seen yet. I'm up to
Yes.
season 2.
And I've seen all of season 1.
I'm up to the start of
Yes,
season 3.
and I believe he premieres in season 3, and he's going to be in season 4.
So please no spoilers.
Yeah. Or spoilers. Go ahead. I don't care.
someone just said it was Tyler Boyce. Hi, Tyler.
T-Boyce.
T-Boyce said, prevailing rumor is that Mara Jade is one of the Jedi that Kylo Ren killed when he betrayed Luke in the flashback, which would be dope.
That would be an amazing, like, here you go, fans. So sorry we have to kill her for the story, but she does exist
Maybe
in
you
canon.
see her
and maybe
fight
we
a
could,
little bit.
Someone was saying that
Maybe we could
it's Rey's mum. Mara
Well,
Jade
that's
is,
one of the theories is that Luke gets
Guys.
betrayed by
Oh my
one
God!
of
So
someone
so
that he's
so Mara Jade
training.
and Luke did have a child. It's Rey,
Right.
and then Kylo. Oh,
I know.
oh, I like that.
I like
I
it.
like all of that.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. like it a lot. There's so much to talk about that stuff. Yeah. So.
Oh, do you
glad
want to see
everybody's
another
here.
party trick? It's so cool.
Sure.
Can I get my camera ready? Where are we? Here, ready? Oh, it's Nightcrawler. How cool is that? Oh, it's
I thought you were gonna do this.
It's Nightcrawler.
I thought you were gonna do this thing. This party trick.
I need like
oh
a-
look.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm Thrawn.
Am I Thrawn? Hello.
Nope.
Wait.
That's the wrong.
No, it's that's good.
Ah, shit, guys.
Gift and
Mom, what are you doing? How are you making yourself laugh that much? You're crying. You knew what the bit was going to be. You knew what it was going to look like.
I did not mean. I thought I was nailing it the whole time.
oh my
You thought you were nailing. You thought you were nailing it the whole time by holding the book up like this.
I was on the wrong
You thought you were nailing
one. I
it.
didn't know.
Boy, oh boy, Maude, you're the best. All right, guys. So let's get into the discussion about this book.
Yes.
First of all, first seven chapters.
I just really like the way you said that.
Yes. Let's get our wrinkle on. First 7 chapters Okay, let's give our overall impression first, and then we'll do a bit of a deep dive.
Inside, I fell asleep.
Okay. Inside, I fell asleep. Maude Garrett. I really am enjoying it, and I think that the character is super fascinating, and we'll get into why I think so, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I think there's lots of setup happening. Can't wait to see the payoff. Rachel, what do you think?
I like it too. I like that what I remember about Thrawn is playing into this in an interesting way. I like that we're getting some of his perspective and the way that they're jumping around. I really like sort of the format that they're using, and I'm intrigued by it because I think that there is a lot of setup happening in a way that's exciting for me in the way when you like a puzzle and you can feel things clicking into place but not quite. It's why I like certain types of sci-fi TV and things like that, and why at one time I liked Lost.
Yes.
But
all of Lost
You
is
gotta
great.
drink every time you mention it.
Yep, every time you mention
Someone
Lost.
brought it up today.
We
and
have
I
to
got
go
upset.
back.
Yeah. I'll never go back. I'll never forget. I'll never forget.
We should rewatch the whole show, you and I, Rachel. It'll be great. Episode
But
by
I'm
episode.
really digging it so far. There are points that are a little slow because they haven't paid off yet, but so far I feel like it's moving really quickly. And I like that they're jumping forward in time, so we don't have to see like every cadet moment.
Yeah,
that
they'll say
they
like
go through.
they'll say like, we just got invited to play cards. Cut to the guys dealing the cards,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, this is
18
great.
We've been on this ship for 18 months.
Yeah, cool.
And now
Yeah.
our
Cool.
captain is being
because
replaced.
the book is about how Thrawn becomes Grand Admiral.
Yeah.
And how he rises to the
there's
ranks.
there's a little where he's like, oh, you can
Admiral.
do that when you become admiral, and goes, okay, I'll do that. And you're
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
he's gonna do that. 'cause
Eli
he's so
Banto was
smart.
like, oh, he really is going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The novel takes place after Revenge of the Sith / the Fall of the Republic. So the Clone Wars are still like fresh in the world's minds. All the characters, they still kind of, there's characters that fought in the Clone Wars and stuff, but it's before New Hope. And I think so is Star Wars Rebels.
Yes.
Is before New Hope. And,
Yes.
and Grand Admiral
Before
Thrawn.
Rogue One, right?
And before Rogue One, and Grand Admiral Thrawn is Grand Admiral Thrawn in that series, and he's still a young man. And correct me if I'm wrong too, in the original Timothy Zahn trilogy that took place after Return of the Jedi, he's like a little bit older, kind of a thing. But like he's a type of alien race. It might be very long lived, so he's still kind of a little bit in his prime. But like this is definitely him in his prime.
And he starts out trying to rebuild the empire and kind of putting the puzzle pieces back together.
Interesting,
to
yeah.
seek revenge and
Very cool.
and getting people under his wing is sort
Yep.
of his thing, which
Plague
you can
Wind.
see building up in this.
Plague Wind confirms this book is a prelude to Thrawn in Rebels, which is great.
Good. So we're at the right time to read it then.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and catch up on Star Wars Rebels. Look at that. Look at that. Now, I also have to point out, I
Isn't
forget
this-
the name of the actor.
It's Mad Mikkelsen's brother, isn't
Mad
it?
Mikkelsen's brother. So I'm full on
Mads.
hearing Mad's type accent, this
God,
sort of
he was just in
Icelandic,
something- Oh, House of Cards. He plays
in
the
that?
he plays the Putin character
Very
in House
cool.
of Cards. I mean,
Very
it's
cool.
not
I mean,
Putin,
it's
but it's
not
the,
much of a stretch.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, God,
Poor-
that guy
poor-
reminds me of Mad Mikkelsen. He should
Yeah.
have played this role. And then we looked him up and it was like,
His brother.
It's his brother.
Poor Mads Mikkelsen and his brother. I'm sure they're lovely dudes in real life. They're very nice. In fact, I think I met Mads once, and he's super, super nice. They're just so fucking terrifying.
Yes.
The way that they speak,
Yes.
everything
Like
that they
sexy
say.
snakes.
They're sexy snakes.
Wow, they're Slytherin.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's perfect casting to sort of envision that kind of a vibe for Grand Admiral Thrawn. I love how I looked up some clips of him on the show because again I'm not caught up to this point in Rebels yet to hear what he sounded like, and he speaks very quietly.
He
Everything
does.
that he says,
Barely a whisper.
he speaks barely a whisper, which forces people to listen to him, which is a power play. And I was like
Everything
thinking
is a
that
power play in
everything
this
is a
book.
power play. That's
It's
right.
really interesting.
It's the book is from the Empire's perspective, which I think is really interesting. They're not fully evil. And that's what the Empire is in Star Wars, at least outside of the main movies.
This is
where
the biggest wave of content that we're getting from them right now. I
Yeah.
think, all the movies were all about good and evil, that we
Yes.
were all supporting the rebels.
Although I
and now
got a
that
theory
we've
about that. I have a theory about that.
I want to hear your theory.
My theory is that I think we're going to do, I think Kylo Ren's going to become a good guy
Oh, yeah.
by episode 9.
I agree.
I think that
That's the redemptive arc
the
for
redemptive arc.
sure.
I think that when Luke Skywalker says the Jedi must end, I believe that he's going to say the Jedi were wrong. They're just as wrong as the Sith. They were just as absolute as the Sith. And now we're going to get gray Jedis, which is something
all
that's being
about the
discussed.
grey.
Me
Yep.
too. And I think that
Absolutely.
these children's movies, the storytellers are going to try to be a little bit more complex and go, look, some people are bullies. Some people can be like a Kylo Ren, but they can be redeemed. Even though he killed his dad, look at the circumstances. Not everybody's purely evil. Not everybody's purely good. Let's try to
it
tell.
comes down to being survivalists.
Yes,
when
which
you
is what
think
Thrawn
about it.
is.
Yeah.
Literally surviving in the jungle. Maude, you could not have set that up better. Wow. Wow.
People aren't good and evil, right? And especially you find out, like, look, Luke he doesn't complete, he's not actually a Jedi. He doesn't complete his training. He runs away. He's flawed. He has anger. They think that first they think Anakin is going to restore balance. Then they think it's Luke. I think it's probably going to end up being Rey and Kylo together, bringing those two sides together.
Love it.
But I think it's one of those things where the Jedi, to quote a young Anakin Skywalker, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. But
I hate sand.
No,
It gets everywhere. It's coarse. Did you know it's coarse?
but it's coarse. It's rough. But I feel like the Jedi too are so strict in their. There's no capacity to love.
There's no
capacity
hanky-pank.
to feel.
hanky-pank.
That's
Because
empathy, right?
passion's going
Yes.
to lead to emotions that you can't control, and
Yeah.
which leads
But
to anger,
sometimes,
which leads
but
to
that's a
be all
strength
Spocks.
too. Empathy and
is. It
and
is.
vulnerability can be a strength.
Absolutely.
But if we're going to bring that concept, then we have to apply it to Peter Parker, who's had to make sure that he never had a relationship because anyone who he cared for would be used against him, and that's like almost a Jedi mentality.
Let's talk about Peter Parker for a second, because I think that
I did it
you
for you.
compare him. Thank you so much. Well, you compare him to a character like Batman, where Bruce Wayne has actually deliberately sabotaged
himself off.
relationships, cut himself off, and even then, he has no choice but to love a family, which becomes his family. I'm talking about the Robins that he sort of adopts, the Dick Graysons, Alfreds, the Batgirls, Commissioner Gordon. All these people become his extended family. So outside forces are forcing him to love and open up.
Yep.
But even then, he's still like, I can't be with Selena Kyle. I can't be with Vicky Vale. I can't.
That's a good Batman.
Peter Parker, thank you. Even though he is at fault for accidentally killing his uncle and accidentally killing his girlfriend in
Stacy.
college, who he was going to propose to, which is how much he loved her, he still allows love in his life. He still lets himself say, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of being loved, and he ends up getting married to his best friend, Mary Jane. So, and he still decides to face every day with a sense of humor and to go, all right, this is my lot in life, but I'm gonna have a good time with it, which is really admirable. But we're not talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about Star Wars.
I have one more aside before.
Go.
Which is just one word: Buffy. Slayers are supposed to be alone.
Yep.
Buffy's strengths are the Scooby Gang. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Perfect.
So,
That's perfect.
but Jedi do have each other. They still have the Padawan and the Master, and there is
Yes.
that kind of thing going where it's like they have a love and respect for each other. And of course, Anakin does breach all of this when he decides that Padme is the love of his life, and they have that in secret. And of course, that turmoil becomes the catalyst of his transferring to the dark side.
Lady Amphi says, are we drinking anytime a Star Wars meme is mentioned? Sure.
Yeah, what do we got?
Oh man.
Misa think
We're
that's a
gonna
good
need-
idea. Take a drink. Take a drink. Jar Jar.
All right, so I've got a couple of gripes about Thrawn.
Okay,
Let me tell you what
Do
they
it.
are.
Let's
The
get into
character
it.
or the book?
The key component that I feel is missing. When a first chapter is established, what good writing will do is describe the characters subtly. I cannot recall a single time that anyone has been described
Besides
apart from Thrawn.
Yeah.
I
that's
have
true.
no idea what these people look like. They are faceless, blurry characters. And I can't stand that because the first thing I like to do is to cast my characters. I do have my Eli. Now, Eli is this poor, unassuming guy who just happens to be in the wrong place at the very right time. And Thrawn realizes that he can use this guy to his full capacity, whether he likes it or not. I have cast Eli and I don't know if you guys have seen Girls, but
Adam
Ray?
Driver. Great casting. Oh.
no, not at all. No,
Fran?
Alison.
Allison Chinney.
Yeah, she's got
Allison Cleft
Allison
Chin.
Williams?
Allison
Allison Williams
Williams'
from Get Out.
boyfriend Charlie
Oh.
is my Eli.
He's very handsome.
And if it's not him, because that's the movie version, the other version is like a bit of a Michael Pena.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing.
I thought.
I
okay,
would love
you
a Michael
watched-
Pena as an Eli Vanto.
You
That'd be
watched
great.
True Blood.
Yes.
Correct. I'm seeing Eli as Sam's little brother. He's a little more hapless, possibly.
Right.
The one who
Yep.
finds out, and he turns, he betrays him or whatever. He's
Yep.
a little, because I do like Eli, and
He's
I
a
feel
pup.
like a through line in this for the characters is that, besides Thrawn, who we're kind of getting stuff from, but he's still a little bit of a mystery, is this self-preservation, which you kind of have to have in a post-Sith world.
Yeah, in the Empire,
where
yeah.
everyone's. But you're totally right. They don't describe them. But I think because of character traits, maybe I cast them because I saw the new captain, Rossi.
Yes.
I think her name is.
She's a bit portly.
I saw Admiral Kane from Battlestar Galactica, who's played by some, Stephen.
Kane?
It's
We'll have
Kane from the. No, I'm forgetting all of the names of it. From the Pegasus. Thank you.
Excellent.
She's also in True Blood.
Blonde?
She plays.
Yes.
No,
She's
no.
the Chancellor? No.
No, in True Blood. She plays the goddess of.
Oh,
of
hold
all-
on. You're thinking of Laura, the president? No.
No.
Who am I thinking of?
No.
Oh, I think I remember
She's
the guys
badass.
who.
It's gonna bother me so
Was
much.
that
She's on
season
Orphan
4?
Black too. Someone in the chat, please.
Are you
help me.
sure
Got
she's
it.
not the stern-talking blonde woman with the?
No, she has dark hair. Helena Kane on Battlestar. She's.
okay.
Steven's gonna find out.
Yeah,
for
Steven's
me.
gonna grab it. T-Boy
Steven's
says,
gonna
I
find
like Michael Pena as Eli Vanto. Nicely done.
Yeah, I
Good
like that
casting,
too.
Mike.
Okay.
I think you guys are both right, but I also think that a lot of the characters are left, especially Eli, purposely vague because Eli is
like
us.
that.
Eli
Yeah.
is the
No, I
is
don't
the,
like that. I don't like that.
is
I
the
don't
entry
like
point character. I see myself as Eli Vanto because it's kind of from his perspective. He's kind of the main character.
That's
kind
so
of.
hard. That's so much harder for me
Sure,
to do that.
sure.
I'd rather have a particular and fleshed out and very, very clear character. So I'm like, right, you make sense. I see you, I get you. And I'm just not getting that with a lot of the characters here. And the names are so, because it is
They're
in
Star
space.
Warsy.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
That's
they're
it,
Star Wars names,
and
yeah.
it's like, it doesn't.
You know what helps
help.
me is that I feel like I know Star Wars enough that like and this is actually a perfect segue into a thing that I was most excited to talk about with you guys about the book and the whole of Star Wars. But I feel like I know the visuals. Did you grab the name?
Yeah, Michelle Forbes.
Thank
Michelle
you, Michelle
Forbes.
Forbes.
Excellent.
She's
need to
also
see
on
her.
Orphan Black.
Excellent.
And everything. She's in a lot of sci-fi, and I love her.
I'm so used to what like the Empire looks like that it looks like a bunch of dudes that look like Ben Mendelsohn. It's like a bunch of British actors. It's like a bunch of you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was a burp. But I'm also sorry. Ben Mendelsohn's Australian. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that.
you
I
guys
didn't say he
watched
was
Eddie-
British. I'm saying it's Ben Mendelsohn and a lot of British
Oh,
white
I
dudes
thought that
and a
was-
lot.
I thought
That's
that was
the
rude,
Empire.
too.
Have you guys
But even
watched
then, he didn't have an
Eddie
Australian
Izzard?
accent.
Oh.
Yes.
Eddie
Yes, she is
Eddie-
the epitome of stern. isn't
Yeah,
she?
she's badass.
Okay, Eddie Izzard. What about Eddie Izzard?
So Eddie Izzard does a very small bit where he's talking about Star Wars and how all the bad guys on Star Wars are white British dudes, and they go, it's someone will pop into a room and it'll go, "What is it, Sebastian? I'm arranging matches. It's just the rebels. They're here." And it's like all this. It's so
you got to
good.
send me that bit. I
Yeah.
love that. But this is the thing I'm most excited to talk about. Well, I was just going to say to Maud's point, like I'm filling that stuff kind of in, but they are sort of generic to me. But I do feel like I kind of know what, generally speaking, the Empire kind of looks like. And of course, the scene with Emperor Palpatine, one of my
Yes.
favorite scenes.
Describing
Love
the
that
eyes,
scene.
the skin.
Love that
It
scene.
wasn't a
Good.
fold like
Yes.
an old person.
But it was like
burned.
lightning, burnt.
And
Love that
no
whole
one-
scene.
It was very 1984 that they have him still looking like his old self somehow in the
Photos and in
in
the,
the
Holograms, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
holograms and everything.
Love
I
it.
loved that no one knows that Anakin is things
Yeah.
you take for granted.
That what a
but
great moment.
love
I just
that.
feel that if this is your first entry point into Star Wars, you may be a little lost. I think
Yeah.
it
Sure,
was
that's a good point.
T-Boyce. T-Boyce was saying that the reason why possibly there isn't much descriptive terminology for our characters is because they have been previously mentioned in other books. But I don't particularly think that that's fair on
True.
the reader
I
to
agree. I
assume.
totally agree. It's the same thing with writing an article, right? If you're writing about something, you have to have an entry point and some context for people so that they have that. And even if it's just a link to something else or whatever, but in this, I agree with you, you do need some context. It's the same way that Fantastic Beasts was just like, here's all the stuff in magical Harry
Yeah.
Potter land, but they
Yeah.
didn't explain anything for people who didn't grow up with Harry Potter
It was
or
also
didn't
a
watch
shit
anything else.
movie.
Yes,
True.
but
Good point.
but a lot of that was that they just throw you in there and there's no logic or world build. It's world building,
Yeah.
right, and character building.
That's it.
Well,
So
I
I
have-
would agree
well-
with you on that.
Story.
Have we talked about my theory on Harry Potter versus Star Wars? Just a quick little sidebar.
Yes, you did. Yes,
we
one was
mentioned
perfect
that.
storytelling.
Yes,
The
Harry.
other one was and the other one was perfect world building.
Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? I agree with the world building in this Star Wars. Like every time they're the mode of transport from A to B, every time
So
they're
great.
describing the cities.
So great. The
Lothal, like
planets.
I know Lothal because I've seen
Coruscant.
Rebels.
Wanting to go to Coruscant
But
so
also
badly.
the descriptions of the locations are maybe less Coruscant, but some of those I think.
They're-
Do a
they're-
somewhat
but-
better job. I need
Yeah.
I want more.
That's
You know what
fine.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here's the thing I'm most excited to talk about. Also, Thierry asks, who would you cast as a young Thrawn?
I can't not think of Nightcrawler, another Australian.
Perfect.
From
Alan Cumming?
no, the
Cody
youngin.
Smith. X-Men Apocalypse.
That's it.
Cody Smith.
Fee.
And every time I
Smith.
hear his,
McPhee, I think, yeah.
when he speaks, I know I hear him like this. I do. I hear him like the
Mm-hmm.
Rebels character.
That's great. Yeah, I can't think of anybody. I would have to be an unknown. Somebody who's very gaunt. Somebody just like very like cheekbone city.
Flesh out his skin. Here's another
Mm-hmm.
fun trick. Flesh out his skin. Make that skin colored and make that whatever Tarkin's eyes are. You got
Yeah.
Tarkin all over you. It's literally Tarkin 2.0.
You may fire when ready. Very Tarkin-y.
Yeah.
Very Tarkin-y. Thank you very much. So I want to ask you guys about this. I want to get your take on this because the reason I'm loving this book so much this far is that it's really reminding me of one of my other favorite fictional characters from science fiction, Khan from Star Trek. And I have some books about Khan that were written, some backstory and some fiction
Can't
and
wait
stuff.
to hear all about it.
Khan Noonien Singh, he's excellent, Maude.
Oh, and in this one, it's
Excellent.
interesting.
Interesting. Yes, I see. Is what it is. I see. Khan, just like Thrawn, is like the all-time villain in Star Trek, and he is superior, and he's beautiful, and he's strong, and he's intelligent,
the
and he's
other
and he's
in-
the. In Wrath of Khan is fantastic, but some of those books that I read about his backstory is that he's somebody who was. He had a hard life coming up, and then he was able to be genetically experimented on. Then he took over a whole portion of the world, but he's just like a cunning mastermind, on top of being somebody who can physically fight. So then we get to Thrawn, and the book opens with him being trapped on a planet by himself, just like Khan was at the end of Space Seed, and then you get to Wrath of Khan, and his
You
wife
get
died, and he
excited that
blames.
it's very similar. I don't.
Yes,
I get
and-
disappointed that it's just a replica.
Let me say why. Well, I'm not seeing it exactly a replica, but what I'm liking about Thrawn is that this book in particular goes into something that I have felt about Star Wars, but feel like the movies never really go into because that's not what the movies are about. That's not what Star Wars is about. But I think that Star Wars is inherently, there's a lot of racism in that world. There's a lot of racism. And I think it's really interesting to talk about that stuff. I think that the way that the characters interact with alien species, even when those aliens are supposed to be, for all intents and purposes, characters, but they're just different. They just speak a different language. They come from a different place, like
They look
Chewbacca,
different.
like Yoda. They look different, exactly. Up to this point in Star Wars, most of the heroes have been male, have been white, and they're human characters. I don't think we're ever going to get a Star Wars movie where the Wookiee is like a Jedi. I don't think that's going to happen, but
Well, actually, there was a small part of Clone Wars where one of
in
the
the
younglings
EU,
was a,
that's right.
No,
That's right.
no.
In Rebels or in Clone Wars?
Clone Wars, there is a youngling
That's true.
who is a
Who's a Wookiee.
Wookiee.
So cute.
And he makes his lightsaber hilt out of wood. That's
Oh, really?
cute. Yeah.
That's super awesome. But anyway, back to the sort of Star Wars.
Sorry to correct you like a nerd, by
Not at all. No, please keep doing more of that.
Actually.
But even then, the original sort of the reason for Star Wars existing was that it was this sort of hero male escape fantasy. I mean, obviously, women liked the original Star Wars movie. People
But look
of
how
color.
excited we got when we got Mara Jade or Rey,
Absolutely.
which I weep every time she gets the lightsaber.
And with
I
Disney's
mean,
new
full
direction,
tears.
I have a feeling that Rey's going to end up being a Skywalker,
Jyn
which is going to continue
Erso.
that. But we
Holy
have Jyn
shit.
Erso, and
Yep.
on top of Jyn Erso, there probably could have been more women in Rogue One, absolutely. But everybody else was a brown dude. Disney has really decided to try to, we've got Finn, we've got Poe Dameron, we have all these sort of newer
Yeah.
characters. And when you go to the book like Thrawn, other science
Riz
fiction
Ahmed.
tends to deal with more. What's that?
Your clone,
Yeah,
Riz Ahmed.
Riz Ahmed, absolutely.
high
Oh,
praise.
love Riz Ahmed. Thank you. That's such a nice compliment. Thank you, by the way. But Star Trek tends to deal with racism more. They use their alien characters, obviously, as analogs for race issues and everything. And the original Star Trek had a Russian on the bridge. And even with the original Star Trek's portrayal of the Klingon characters, that was sort of corrected when Klingon Worf was a member of the bridge in the 80s. So there's all these really interesting things happening with Star Trek. That's what it's supposed to be, a reflection of our world. Star Wars is escapism, fantasy escapism. But look at the way that the characters deal with even droid characters, which are like sentient beings, but they're still treated like shit. Like there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the world. And to have Thrawn, to have a scene where, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it, which I thought was really interesting to me, and I want more of it, and I hope that it happens more, where Eli Vanto explains to Thrawn basically what racism is.
Yes.
Which
And
I thought was
classism
fascinating.
as
And,
well.
and there's so much
Yeah.
classism in Star Wars with the core worlds versus the outer rim.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, the wealth of the empire versus the poverty of the rebel alliance,
And the
you know,
connections. It's
and
not
the
how much
connections.
you know, but it's who
It's
you
all
know.
politics. It's all this and that. But Eli has a really interesting sort of response, and I'm going to try to find the exact. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Normally, Thrawn said, his voice getting a little dry. Eli winced. For a moment, he'd forgotten how Thrawn had arrived in the Empire in the first place. Well, officially, we're not allowed to disrespect aliens either. He went on hurriedly. I say officially because that's what the general orders say we're supposed to do, but that's not always what we really do. You dislike non-humans. Eli hesitated. How was he supposed to answer that? There were a lot of different non-human groups in the separatist movement, he said, choosing his words carefully. The Clone Wars killed a lot of people and devastated whole worlds. There's still a lot of resentment about that, especially among humans. But were not other non-human groups allied with the Republic? Sure, Eli said, and most of them did all right, but humans still carried most of the weight. He considered, well, that's the perception anyway. I don't know if it's actually true. Thrawn nodded, either agreement or simple acknowledgement. Either way, would it not be more reasonable to resent only those non-human groups that opposed you? Probably, Eli said. Well, okay, definitely. And it probably started that way, but sometimes that sort of thing seeps down to other groups. He hesitated. On top of that, there's a lot of contempt in the core worlds towards the people anywhere past the mid-rim, humans and non-humans alike. And with me from wild space and you from the unknown regions, we're about as far into the sneer zone as you get. I see, Thrawn said. So, and then he kind of goes on about this sort of test. But I thought that that was fascinating and something that the world of Star Wars never goes into because that's not what it's about. And
But I think we're seeing with these films, there is a conscious choice being made to make it about this, not just because there is a market of people besides white dudes who want to go see and buy shit from Star Wars, y'all.
Yeah.
We buy a lot of stuff. But that's the way that everything is moving, and if you don't, you are going to be left behind because we care about this stuff. We want to see ourselves and everyone else represented. You should be able to turn on the TV or open a book of something of this magnitude that's this much of a cultural phenomenon, and you should be able to find someone that you can identify with, that you see where you don't feel like it's impossible for you. I explained that to my little brother who's 17.
Same.
And when we saw Force Awakens on Christmas, I took him and my dad, and I'd seen it like 3 times already, and just crying during the scene. And my brother goes like, "Why were you crying during that?" And I had to explain like having someone, a female character who's a Jedi, and seeing
Who's a
yourself,
brunette.
Moana.
No blondes yet, that's fine. We'll get blondes.
Laura Dern, maybe Mara Jade.
Oh, dude, I could play a young Laura Dern.
You could absolutely play.
Have you seen my Jurassic Park impersonation? Oh,
of a
We've
raptor,
seen your
yes.
raptor.
Please give us your Laura Dern.
No, it's fine. It's
Do
fine.
it.
Can we all see I'm wearing an It's a Traptor shirt?
Yes, of course we
I love
can.
it.
All right, I've actually done my Laura Dern impersonation to Laura Dern. Can I just make that
Wow.
perfectly clear? And do you know what she said to me? She said, I loved you in Jurassic Park. Ready?
Oh, is it the running bit? Okay,
Yeah,
here we
yeah.
go. Wait.
We here? Run! Run! Woo!
Wow.
Yes, thanks.
And the Oscar goes to Maude Garrett as Laura Dern in Jurassic Park. Wow.
I love
Wow.
Jurassic
We
Park.
pulled this year and ran the rock.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to.
It's Moonlight. The answer's Moonlight.
But yes,
Yeah.
I want to follow on from what you're
Yeah.
saying with this. In credits where credits due, not an accident. Credits is the funny term.
Star Wars credits.
Thank you. They're not forcing
Oh my
the
God.
diversity. That's 2 from 2. They're not forcing the diversity either. It's nice and subtly done, and it's not done in a way
It's
where
part of
it's
the
like,
story.
and Marvel Comics
People are
cops slack
people.
from it, being like, "Oh, you want diversity? Let's change everything." And,
Sure.
and then they said,
'Cause
"Oh,
it's gotta
by the
be
way,
authentic."
we blame diversity for our
Yeah,
sake."
that's no good.
That was really shitty.
But what I love is that it's inherent, especially the classism, because I think that Star Wars for decades has been a little blind to the racism that it kind of puts out there and the way that it treats alien
prequels
characters.
certainly are.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on not even Jar Jar Binks, but like Watto,
No, Watto
as
is
like a
really
Jewish
it's
stereotype, and
really
then the
bad.
guys that dealt with the Trade Federation, which
Nope.
is just the
Really
most.
bad.
And don't try to come at me and be like, well, we're trying to do.
No.
Nope.
No, it's
There's
bad.
no excuse for that.
It's bad.
Anyway,
It's
the
racist.
point is, it's just like, come on, guys, they
Yeah.
dropped the ball on that.
The Nemoidians?
Yes, those guys.
Well,
Yeah.
actually.
Don't do it. Nope.
They're called the Nemoidian. No, I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
that's
that I
fine.
know.
You can correct me that way. That's okay.
But I also think too that outside of this being a Star Wars book, it's that section that you read is also, I think, where this book might be lacking in character and world development. It's references to non-Star Wars ideas
Yes.
and concepts are really strong and woven in a really interesting way, which is that people of a certain background or
Will
group
have advantages
are
or disadvantages.
or
Yeah.
are blamed
Yes.
for
Yeah.
the acts of a few, and it happens with certain groups of people. But the opposite of that, like homegrown terrorism, for example, that doesn't happen the same. It's not classified the same way
Absolutely.
for different reasons, and that's
Absolutely.
really interesting. And also, what I really like about this, I think my favorite thing about this book so far, someone called it like Sherlock with Star Wars.
Yes, I had that same analogy where he will just observe everything
Love
and
it.
use the information that he observes to his.
It's super calculated, but I mean, this is the art of war.
Yes.
That's
Sun Tzu's The Art
those
of War,
sections
yes.
are
And
so
he's a warrior.
fascinating to me because he is a character that, and we will read this book on this show, mark my words. Stranger in a Strange Land is about a young boy who is raised by Martians on Mars and learns how to think differently because they're telepathic and they train him how to do something different. And this is something like that where he is so different from everyone around him. We've never met anyone like him before. His background is all in legend, and so he thinks differently.
Yeah.
And we're only getting bits and pieces of that. We're seeing him analyze every motion that everyone has, but we
love
don't
that.
know that he's understanding all. He's clearly picking up on some of it, but not
Yes.
all of it, and
Yes.
he's learning sort of empathy and human behavior from Eli in a way where I think he wants to elevate him, and but he also wants to use him
Absolutely.
in his
It's a
own
tech-
way,
And
and
you
that's what he
can't-
does in
you-
the trilogy.
In the
is
trilogy,
he
and you
uses
can't fault the
everyone-
guy.
Yeah,
And just like how
Smart.
my favorite character Khan inspired his people, his genetically engineered army of 70 men and women, Thrawn is a guy who doesn't want to make enemies out of everybody. He's trying to build bridges, and it's really, really smart. When he gets jumped by a bunch of classmen, he decides, well, I want to have them transferred. It'll scare the shit out of them, but they actually would be good as pilots, and later I can use that to my advantage. Like all of these things that just benefit everybody. May I offer a suggestion, an alternative? And you're like, fuck, this guy's the smartest guy. He
polite.
goes into a room with the emperor, and he's
Yes.
the smartest guy in that room.
But he knows that it's about to happen.
Yeah.
It's not like I hope I
He's
there's
anticipating
a series
the
of
chess
events that
Yes.
could lead there.
Yes.
He makes sure that is where he ends up. And I,
I
think
love
that's
it.
great about
I want
it.
to read. I want to read T. Boyce's comment. It's like one thing up. He says that's what I liked about the original extended universe, the EU. Right there, it introduced characters that didn't play into those stereotypes that we're talking about. They introduced Toydarian kings, Nemoidian Sith lords, etc., etc. And that's the stuff
Nemoidian.
that I think fans of the EU have always been exposed to, but regular movie-going audiences haven't really seen those kinds of sides in Star Wars because there's just not enough time. There's not enough, and again, that's not what those movies are. Like Luke is not going to turn to the camera and be like, "It's wrong to treat droids bad." It would be cool if they kind of wove those sort of lessons into those movies, but that's not what they're about. There's,
And that's if we were reading it's the Huckleberry Finn
Sure,
or anything like
sure.
that, when you look at things in the time frame,
absolutely.
we've made such huge strides even in the past couple of years
Mm-hmm.
of what we're talking about and
In fair and equal representation.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And still have a very long way to go, very, very. But we're talking about it in a way that we weren't even talking about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
It's
I
crazy.
think that I love that, and I attribute at least a part of it to Kathleen Kennedy.
She has a responsibility.
time.
You know,
Big
and
time.
she's
Who
recognized her responsibility.
She's openly discussed this, and then when people give criticism about the choices that they're continuing to make, she's like, you know what, I hear you. I really appreciate that when they weren't making enough toys, and when you have Rey, who's the lead character of this movie, and you don't have anything that you can buy, and they came out with that awesome thing that they're doing that they announced at Celebration, where they're doing these
women in
stories.
Star Wars,
and,
yeah.
But they didn't even say that. They were like, we're
Yeah.
doing heroes, and we're talking about these stories, and they didn't have to be like, it's about women.
Yeah.
But they just picked a bunch of female
it's right
characters and made
there.
it about them,
Yeah.
and it's like, I will buy all of that.
Yeah,
I'll buy all of
absolutely.
it. All the
Absolutely.
They're all no blondes. That's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. One
Soon.
step at a time.
They are all
you know?
all brunettes.
I mean, I'm just not saying if we're going to do all equality. No, I'm kidding. I'm absolutely okay. I could be
Yeah.
brunette if I
Yeah,
wanted
guys,
to. but
let's
I
be
just
more
choose not.
equal to blonde women. They've got it tough, you guys. Let's hook them up with some. Come on, guys.
I'm so offended. I want to tackle
Oh.
another part of this book that
Yeah.
I felt is a bit of a drag. Now, I was so on board. I did a Star Wars podcast when the first canon book came out.
Yes.
And I read it, and it's called A New Dawn, and
Yes.
it's shit.
Sorry.
It's bad.
Was
You
it
know what
Aftermath
is?
or was it?
So what I'm understanding is that the big theme of A New Hope is finding resources for the Death Star. Now these resources are rare. These resources need to be able to have kyber crystals that I believe fuels the laser
Yes.
to
Yes.
permeate planets or destruct everything.
That's why they went to
Jeddah.
Thank you.
There
Jeddah
it is.
temples.
And in A New Dawn, it was
on it.
about, this other resource. But it was the whole fucking book, guys, was about mining. And
Yeah.
guess who doesn't care and thinks that's really boring?
Oh, so you don't like the side story.
We're back to mining? Come on! It's a different resource. It's the same premise.
But
Sure.
she's a
Don't
social
care.
climber. I don't know how she's gonna fit into it.
I love that scene.
But
Yeah.
I like that you meet her and you're like, oh, she's protecting her family, and then she's like, nope, sold them down
Oh,
the
that
river
was
to
great.
take. I
And
really liked
reason,
that first section.
Maude, I would have agreed with you 100%, but I may have ruined or enhanced this reading experience for myself by reading this little dealie.
I
yeah,
didn't.
you know
Because
I don't do that.
I know you don't do that,
Oh,
but this
now
little
I'm going
dealie,
to, though.
you got to do it because right here, when the sort of summary of the book says, but even though Thrawn dominates the battlefield, he has much to learn in the arena of politics, where ruthless administrator Arinda Price holds the power to be a potent ally or a brutal enemy. So I'm like,
like
it's all
that.
set up. It's all set up. And I also really like the scene where she told the guy off because she's protecting her family. Then her mom gets arrested because bullshit.
Well,
And that happens,
again, that happened in Lost Stars. I'm seeing so
Oh.
many recycled storylines here,
Oh,
guys.
that-
so
those
the more
exact
you
characters?
read, no.
Oh, just a similar sure.
Story, a similar premise. So the
Yeah.
more that you read,
Yeah.
the more patterns you find, and you're like, oh wow,
and all
you're
in
really
the Star
trapped in
Wars
confines.
new books.
Yeah, they're all canon. So in Lost Stars, basically, she's the girl Sienna
interesting.
Ree, who looks exactly like the character for the new Battlefront 2. Same, very similar storylines there. I'm like, come on, just make it the one person. So that anyway, apparently
Agreed.
quantity over quality is happening.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
It's the same premise where the Empire will arrest someone for manipulative purposes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I understand why it's happening, but it's just
I mean, I guess that is what happens in a dictatorship,
Yeah,
right? Is they
totalitarian. Yeah.
But
Yeah, Disney, the dictatorship, just continue to recycle the same
As everything
storylines.
goes
money,
dark.
money,
Yeah.
money.
And we're shut off. Okay, great. Okay, but that's fair. Have you read? Bcom said he just started reading Catalyst. I read it and I really, really enjoyed it. Maude, have you read anything else that you could recommend?
I
It's the new
still think
Star
Lost
Wars
Stars
stuff?
is the best.
Lost
That's
Stars.
my favorite. Don't do.
Which one's
New
Lost
Dawn.
Stars? Is that the one with,
That's Claudia Gray, which is the love story, which is almost a Romeo and
right.
Juliet love story, where these two start off kids grow up together in one of the outer rim planets, and then they go to the academy together and they learn how to be fighter pilots, basically.
Great.
And then one understands the fundamentals of being a part of the Empire and what it means to be an Imperial soldier. And when the
So
other one
sad.
goes, you know what, there's actually two sides to this, and starts to understand the rebel side,
I like
and so
that.
defects.
I like that.
And she's torn, going, I love you, but I need to kind of, you've got 24 hours to
I felt-
disappear before
yeah.
I report you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I felt
that's
some
good. I
similar
just got
themes.
And Leia shows up in it too.
Yes.
So that's a
I think she
beautiful
was she on the
weaving
cover
in.
or no? It was just the ships on the cover. I felt some similar themes happening with the Catalyst book because you had Jyn Erso and his wife Lyra,
Yes.
Mads Mikkelsen's
Mom.
character.
more fleshed
Mom.
out. in
Of
the
course,
book.
yeah, because she's
not
not
wife,
in there for
that's
5
huge.
minutes. But they have a little bit of like Lyra being like, "Listen, the Empire's not all it's cracked up to be. We have to get out of here," and it's
I
kind of
wish
interesting.
I
yeah.
had seen more of that in the movie because I felt like they hit so many different
She
points.
pulls out a gun and then she's dead. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, Rogue One for me didn't work as much as I really wanted it to.
Oh, it's my favorite Star Wars movie. I don't think it's the best, but it's my
My
personal favorite.
favorite?
Man,
Return of the Jedi.
Rogue One. Yeah, man. Ugh, it works for me. It works for
Jedi.
me.
Perfect ending.
Return of the Jedi.
I think
Perfect ending.
I think the character
Is the best
Empire-
movie.
No, it's still my favorite movie.
Empire is my
Empire
favorite
is
too.
the best.
Empire has my favorite moments,
great.
but
I said it first.
I really wanted to like Rogue One, but it was the character beats and
Sure.
development for me which is a constant problem where I'm like, just turn that part off, and there are parts that I really enjoyed, but I've been meaning to read Catalyst, and I've been meaning to read books that are in canon because I read so many of the old ones, and it was so long ago that
I want to get into a bunch of
I
canon.
can't
I find it
remember
a
all
little
of them.
difficult to read. I mean, I like listening to it because a lot of the books, I listened to Lost Stars and I listened to Lords of the Sith, which is another great book by Paul S. Kemp. That one's a really, really great book. It describes the relationship of Darth Vader and the Emperor after he became Darth Vader.
Interesting,
So like
cool.
the missions that they had together. But listening to them on audiobook means that they have access to all the Lucas archives. So it's all the sound effects, it's
cool.
all the official
Yeah,
sounds.
that's fun.
And they put them in there and it enhances the storytelling.
Well, let me
Okay,
tell you
I'm
right
gonna do
now,
that.
right off the
Okay,
bat,
I will
I'm
do that.
100% listening to Michael Giacchino's score for Rogue One when I'm reading Thrawn, and
okay.
it helps so much. It's
Yeah.
great. It's
Okay.
great. Okay, guys, can we do a little read for the chat? I'm going to play the role of the Emperor.
Okay.
Oh,
I am
what do you
on
want me to do?
page 35.
Okay.
It's up to you, Maude. You have a lovely accented voice. You can be Thrawn, you can be the narrator,
Can I
but
be-
I definitely
can I
want to
be
be the
Thrawn?
Emperor. You want to be Thrawn?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Rachel,
where
will
am I-
you
Yeah.
narrate for us?
Where do I start?
35, if you want to give us and it was probably only 5 seconds at the top of 35, and I'm going to go to the middle of 37, to the end of this chapter, basically.
Wow.
Okay, we're
Here we
doing
go.
a read along. Okay.
Here we go, everybody.
Oh boy. Pressure. Okay. It was probably only 5 seconds, but to Eli, it felt like a medium-sized eternity.
I love that. Can we just say I loved a medium-sized eternity?
Yes.
Because whatever size it is irrelevant because eternity is forever. Keep
Yep.
going.
The entire throne room was utterly still, utterly silent. The only sound was the thudding of his pulse in his ears, the only movement, the shaking of his arms in his sleeves.
Captain Pack,
The Emperor said at last, his gravelly voice neutral.
I'm told you bring me a gift.
Eli winced. A gift? Is it kiss?
Chiss.
Chiss?
Chiss.
For the chiss of the stories, that would have been a deadly insult. Thrawn was behind him, and Eli didn't dare turn around, but he could imagine the expression on that proud face.
I do, Your Majesty.
Park said, bowing low.
A warrior, reportedly of a species known as the Chiss.
Indeed.
The Emperor said, his voice going even drier.
And what, pray tell, would you have me to do with him?
If I may, Your Master. Your Majesty. Whoops.
Thrawn put in before Park could answer.
I am not merely a gift. I am also a resource, one you have never seen the like of before, and may never see again. You would do well to utilize me.
Would I?
The Emperor said, sounding amused.
Certainly you're a resource of unlimited confidence. What exactly do you offer, Chiss?
As a start, I offer information.
Thrawn said. If he was offended, Eli couldn't hear it in his voice.
There are threats lurking in the unknown regions, threats that will someday find your empire. I'm familiar with many of them.
I will learn of them soon enough on my own.
The Emperor
Sounding a
countered
little bit
placidly.
You don't know where he's from. Can you offer anything more?
Perhaps you will learn of them in time to defeat them.
Thrawn said.
Perhaps you will not. What more do I offer? I offer my military skill. You could utilize that skill in making plans to seek out and eliminating these dangers.
These threats you speak of,
The Emperor said.
I presume they're not simply threats to my empire.
No, Your Majesty.
Thrawn said.
They're also threats to my people.
And you seek to eliminate all such threats to your people.
I do.
The Emperor's yellowish eyes seemed to glitter.
And you wish the help of my empire.
Your assistance would be welcome.
You wish me to assist the people who exiled you.
The Emperor said.
Or was Captain Park incorrect?
He spoke correctly.
Thrawn said.
I was indeed exiled
Yet you still seek to protect them. Why?
because they are my people.
And if they withhold their gratitude and refuse to accept you back, what then?
There was a slight pause, and Eli had the eerie sense that Thrawn was giving the Emperor one of those small smiles he was so
can do
good
that.
at. It's your line, Thrawn.
I'm getting the smile down,
Yeah.
guys. It's really important.
Just fill your cheeks with more air. Just fill your cheeks with more air. There you go. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
I do not need their permission to protect them, Your Majesty, nor do I expect their thanks.
I've seen others with your sense of nobility.
The Emperor said.
Most fell by the wayside when their naive selflessness collided with the real world.
I have faced the real world, as you would call it.
You have indeed.
The Emperor said.
What exactly do you wish from my empire?
A state of mutual gain.
Thrawn said.
I offer my knowledge and my skill to you now in exchange for your consideration to my people in the future.
And when that future comes, what if I refuse to grant that consideration?
I love this line.
Then I would have gambled and lost.
Thrawn said calmly.
But I have until that time to convince you that my goals and yours do
Coincide. Indeed coincide. I combined the two. It's cute.
It is cute.
Very endearing.
Interesting.
The Emperor murmured.
Tell me, if you served the empire, yet a threat arose against your people, where would your loyalties lie? Which of us would command your allegiance?
I see no conflict in sharing of information.
I'm not speaking of information.
The Emperor said.
I'm speaking of service.
There was a short pause.
If I were to serve the Empire, you would command my allegiance.
What guarantee do you offer?
My word is my guarantee.
Thrawn said.
Perhaps your servant can speak to the strength of that vow.
My servant?
The Emperor asked, his eyes flicking to Park.
I do not refer to Captain Park.
Thrawn said.
I speak of another. Perhaps I assumed incorrectly that he was your servant, yet he always spoke highly of Chancellor Palpatine.
The Emperor leaned forward a little, his yellowish eyes glittering.
And his name?
Skywalker.
Thrawn said.
Anakin Skywalker.
Boom! That was a good way to end a chapter, y'all.
Yeah.
That was
That
so
was
much fun.
amazing.
Hey, thanks for letting me do that, and thanks for doing that with me. That was a lot of fun.
Oh my God, my pleasure.
That was great. I cannot wait to one day have a kid. I'm planning to read this to a kid I have one day and do all the voices and stuff. That would be...
What are you going to call your kids? What are their names?
I don't know. Probably Hector if it's a boy, and I don't know if it's a girl. I
Really,
don't
Hector?
know. Yeah.
Hector
I'm a
Rena?
legacy kid. My dad and grandpa are named Hector. I kind of have
Oh,
to
are
keep
you?
it going.
So what
You're
are you,
the
the third?
I'm the third.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm technically the
Cool.
second.
May the
I'm
fourth.
named- May the fourth be with me out of my loins. We'll see. That's right. Oh, be with
the
me.
flow of
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, y'all. Anyway, back to the book.
how are you
So,
liking this book? How? What do
Maude,
guys
you
think?
talked a little bit about your feelings about the style of prose and
Yes.
some of the subject matter and the
Yes.
plot points.
There are some pluses and minuses. Really,
Sure.
really loving the fact that we are getting a psychological point of view from Thrawn. I love the descriptive terminology. I love how he's reading what we take for granted, all of our nuances, all of our anecdotes. I think that's fantastic.
Very Sherlock.
It is quite
Yeah.
different to Tarkin, and I'm loving that as well. They're very, very separate pieces
I really
of.
want to read Tarkin. That looks
It
good.
is.
Yeah.
It is pretty fascinating. Just not enough description for our the people that we're trying to imagine.
Rinda Price, sure. Eli Vanto. Okay.
And repeated themes. That's my only. They're my only
Fantastic.
greats.
Rachel?
I'm digging it so far. I feel like it's moving quickly enough. I feel like I don't want to. I'm glad that it's not a whole book about like the cadet years of Admiral Thrawn. You know,
I
like
know,
I'm glad
I
it's
know.
not
We're on it on a
5
ship.
books of. Well, I think it depends. If it was something else where we didn't know, this is the thing with prequels, right? If we didn't know the end game,
Right.
like Harry Potter and The Cursed Child is a good example. I know we're bringing up a lot of but Star Wars, you have to bring up classic nerdy stuff, I guess. And classic sci-fi and fantasy. But with Harry Potter, I was really sad in The Cursed Child for many reasons, but one of them was that
It was a shit book.
It's bad. But
It's a play. It's a shit play.
well, yeah, and apparently the play, when you see it, is a visual spectacular, but it doesn't translate to the page at all.
No.
But it doesn't.
Brutal.
It's bad fan fiction. Steven.
Brutal.
It's
Oh!
bad fan fiction.
Yeah, it's not great.
Ooh. I want to read it so bad.
Okay, good. But what I was sad about was that we meet these young new characters in the Harry Potter world, and they skip through all of their years at Hogwarts really quickly, and so it's like we're 4th years now, and I was like, no, I want to see them getting into shenanigans together.
Yeah.
But with this one, because I know where he's going to end up, I know that there's such a huge history for him. I want to see and because we know it happened very quickly for him, you know, respectively to everything else, where this is set, it's between Sith and Hope.
Yeah.
I like that we get vignettes almost of different elements of their friendship and relationship and partnership. And
I have a feeling Eli's gonna die by the end of this, you guys. I got a feeling Thrawn's gonna like take him out. For political gain.
I think that he's building him up because he sees potential in him.
That's true.
He's
kind of a good dude.
That doesn't mean that that's not going to happen at the end. But I like that we get the card game, we get them kind of building. I loved the beginning. It was sort of like, it reminded me of Predator a little bit.
When he
totally
spoke about his one-man plan.
One
and
guy?
Before
One guy just in the jungle.
Yeah, where they just don't know what's happening. I loved that. It felt like very cinematic to me.
Yes. You can visualize that.
You can visualize the places a lot. I think in this. But yeah, I like that.
I want faces as well.
As we meet characters, I'll do some drawings of
Thank
them,
you.
and then I'll.
I actually do
take
that.
a picture and send them to
If
you.
I'm reading a book and I can't get the characters, I will go online and be like, how have people drawn these characters?
Really?
I've got a page open right now on a phone because I'm listening to an audiobook and it's narrated by a woman and her man voices are not great and the love interest sounded like a dad, so I actually needed to look in. No, it's not going to happen. Oh, it undid it as well. I needed to look.
Oh, that's
will
a
bugger
hunky
it.
thing. Okay.
I needed to
All
look
right.
it up to be able to see it. It's
Well,
important for me.
in any case, I'm going to send you some pictures, Maude.
Thank
I'm having a really great time
the Art
with
of
it.
War stuff is actually my favorite,
Yeah.
though. Having that interspersed throughout it, where you're getting his perspective and getting every chapter or every section that comes from Thrawn's point of view has a lesson that he's teaching
Right at
you
the beginning.
in his
I
own
love it.
art
As a
of
warrior.
war,
I love it.
which I really like. I
Yeah.
think that's
Really
really
cool.
fascinating.
Real quick, somebody in the chat said, can we get Hector to read the #Mendo line? The power we are dealing with is immeasurable. And I'm gonna pass that over to Maude.
no,
You got it.
I just hijacked it.
Give us that
Anyways,
Mendo. Give us the Mendo. I was gonna give it to you anyway. Go.
No, I just did it then.
Ben Mendelsohn, Mendo.
I just did it.
Go.
I did.
The
I
whole
said,
line.
No, I said immeasurable already.
I know, but
you just got to use your cheeks more.
the power we are dealing with.
The power.
Oh my God, am I watching Bloodline right now? Whoa! Holy shit, am I watching
Ben
Bloodline? That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
such
Ben
a good
Mendelsohn
Mendo.
should be in every.
It's an Australian
movie.
thing. I
Agreed.
didn't think he was great in that, but that's just me. Anyway,
In Rogue One?
I thought he was.
He wasn't.
it's like
they
one of the
didn't
best
have
parts.
him enough.
Oh,
I
he's
thought
one
he
of the
was
best
going to be a
parts.
bigger character.
I loved him so. He was
They
great.
used
his accent
they
was
used
great.
Tarkin where
Too
they
much.
should have used Mendelsohn.
Thank you.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, I agree with
Tarkin
that.
instead of
Could've just
Mendo.
been a
That's
nod.
mistake.
Just did that with the King Killer Chronicles. Holy shit, Pinkishly. At Maude Garrett, tweet me. I want to extend this conversation because we don't have any more time. King Killer Chronicles is my favorite, and I'm
Yes.
trying to get this on
Yay.
book club so bad.
Let's do it.
Who did you need to visualize on that one? Let me know. Let's chat.
Oh, also, guys, we kind of ran out of time. Next week we have to talk about American Gods show. which has
Yes.
I haven't
happened.
seen it yet. I'm
And
so behind.
Did y'all see the
Okay.
trailer for Dark Tower?
Yeah.
No, we gotta
no,
talk about
just a little
that.
one. Just a little one.
I also
with
saw
the,
just the little ones. I also saw
Yeah.
little ones, but holy
We'll do a
shit,
we
Idris
gotta
Elba.
do a bonus. We'll talk about Regal
I'm
and
so
Pat. We'll talk
yes,
about all this
I'm
stuff.
so glad we read Dark Tower and American Gods.
You can go early, like 15 minutes, and do
Yeah.
And just do it.
Yes.
That'd be great.
we
That'd
need
be
Talk
great.
about the
5 weeks.
adaptations. That'd be
Cool.
fun.
That'd be super fun. So
Previous
guys,
books.
our homework for next week is to read up until chapter 16, which means finish chapter 15.
So
So
8
stop right
through
at 16.
15.
8 through 15.
'Kay.
Or catch up and go right. Finish 15, stop at 16. Don't forget also, guys, we are on Goodreads. Search Alpha Book Club and come discuss with us. Everybody's itching to discuss. If you're interested in joining us via Skype on the show, calling in, let us know how you feel about Thrawn. Is Maude 100% wrong about it? Am I 100% wrong about it? Is Rachel always on the money? Just let Courtney know in the chat, and she's going to help move that process forward. And also, always be sending us your recommendations to @Nerdist, @Geek and Sundry, or @Join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club. For now, guys, stick around for Choose Your Destiny, and then afterwards, it's Crafting Comics with Jim Higgins and Tiffany Smith. Don't want to miss them.
No, you
Be sure
don't.
to stick around for those, and we will see you guys next time. You're the best. Bye.
Bye.